This is Ron Kessler for Newsmax TV, and we're here with Mitt Romney. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Ron. Good to be with you again.
At the VP debate, we saw Joe Biden saying that we knew nothing about the request for more security at Benghazi. What did you make of that?
Well, that's obviously in direct opposition to the testimony that was provided by the State Department to Congress in a hearing just yesterday. I think people will want to understand how he said what he said and who it was that was speaking the truth and whether someone was not being accurate. That's a major question, a very troubling question that I think has been raised by the debate.
And what did you think of how the debate went?
Well, I think there was one person on the stage who was respectful, who was serious, who was sober and provided the kind of confidence that you'd hope to find in someone who you'd turn to in a crisis, and that was Paul Ryan. And
on the Libya CoverUp question, the State Department was watching this in real time. There were no protesters. They decided that it was a terrorist attack, and yet weeks later we kept hearing about a YouTube video. Is that a cover-up, or is that to enhance Obama's re-election chances?
Well, I think it's a very important question and a troubling question to understand how it was that for such a long period of time the administration continued to insist that this was the response to a video, when quite clearly there was knowledge well before that there was not a demonstration, that it was instead a terrorist attack, a successful attack on 9/11. And this was the first American ambassador killed in 33 years in an assassination. So obviously it's of real interest, and there will be ongoing hearings as to determine what went on. But we expect candor and transparency from the administration. And what we saw from Secretary Rice appears to be something less than that.
You were criticized for issuing a statement in the very beginning expressing outrage that the embassy in Cairo seemed to be sympathizing with the attackers. Do you feel vindicated?
Well, I think the comment that came from the embassy in Egypt was on the website and was reiterated on their website. They said they once again reaffirmed what they had said earlier, and that was for some 14 hours. And finally we said, this is the wrong kind of statement. Actually, at the very same time, the White House repudiated the statement as well. I think in a time like this, you talk about the outrage associated with violence of that nature. And by the way, a moment ago I said Secretary Rice, I meant an ambassador.
Mm-hmm. And at your debate with President Obama, he has blamed his poor performance on being too polite to you. Other Democrats have said it's because you just lied all the time, every time you open your mouth. What do you make of that explanation?
Well, I think if a debate hasn't gone as well as you'd like it to go, there may be an effort to try and find excuses. I've noted this has been an administration which has been long on excuses and short on results. And I worry less about what happens in debates and more about what happens in the country. As we saw last night with the Ryan-Biden debate, the moderator asked each of them to describe what they do to get the economy going and create new jobs. Paul Ryan had a response, laid out what he would do, what we would do to get this economy going, and Vice President Biden simply attacked Paul Ryan. The Obama-Biden team can't defend the results of the last 4 years because we're not better off than we were 4 years ago. At the same time, they don't have any proposals to make things better. The only ideas that have come forward are ideas of saying we want to hire more government workers and have another stimulus and invest in things we believe in and raise taxes on people. I don't know anyone who thinks raising taxes will encourage economic growth or encourage employers to hire people. So I think it was another setting where people were very disappointed with what they heard from the Obama team.
And on top of all this, the wholesale gasoline prices went up again today. What do you make of that?
Well, I think one of the other questions that the American people are asking is, how is it that with gasoline so expensive and with it on the rise from the very early days of the Obama administration, now twice the gasoline price as when the president took office, how is it that he cut in half the drilling permits on federal lands and in federal waters? How is it he stalls on letting the Keystone Pipeline from oil come in from Canada? Why do they stall the development and the production of oil off the coast of Alaska? I mean, there's no question but that this is an anti-oil, anti-natural gas, anti-coal administration. And the American people are paying the price at the pump and in their utility bills.
President Obama has been making fun of your comments about Big Bird, and I wonder if he gets the point or doesn't get the point, or what do you think?
Well, these are serious times. And the matters that were spoken about last night in the vice presidential debate were serious. They're not laughing times or joking times, they're serious times. We have 23 million Americans that are struggling to find good work. And in a setting like that, to be saying we're going to save Big Bird is, I think, in stark contrast to Paul Ryan and my position. No, we're going to save the American family. We're going to help people get good jobs. And that's what my campaign is about, helping get America working again for the middle class of America that's been hammered, that's been buffeted under the Obama administration and their policies. And that's something which we've seen over the past 4 years. And I'm confident that if the president were to be reelected, we continue to see a middle class squeeze, lower and lower incomes, fewer job opportunities, and rising prices. That's been the story of the last 4 years. And we'll see it 4 more years if we were to reelect Barack Obama.
I know in your book, No Apology, you describe trying to convince a Democrat friend that the Republican policies work, that lowering taxes actually creates more jobs, stimulates the economy, brings in more revenue. That's really a hard sell, though, isn't it, to people who are getting goodies from the government or just have been brought up in a certain way to think that way?
Well, there's no question that some people warm to our views and philosophy. There's also no question we're right. The history of the world is that free enterprise and free people and limited government produces a more prosperous economy, and it gives people better prospects for themselves and for their children. The idea of a government-dominated society has been tried a few other places. Cuba, North Korea come to mind. And that approach just doesn't work. And I'm not suggesting that America is becoming Cuba or North Korea, but I am suggesting that a government-dominated economy does not produce the kinds of opportunity and middle-class well-being as does an economy focused on free enterprise and free people and economic freedom. And what we're seeing from this administration is a slow but sure deterioration of economic freedom and a replacement of government, replacement by government of the freedoms which we've enjoyed.
And finally, Ann Romney mentioned to me that when you were at Bain Capital, you almost never brought work home because you were devoted to your family, you wanted to spend time with your kids. Looking back, I wish I had been that way as a father. That's pretty remarkable, and I wonder how that translates into your desire to strengthen families, what you would do in that regard.
You know, I've seen a number of interesting things about what strengthens families, interesting studies. I saw one, I think it was a couple of years ago, reported in USA Today that said that families that have a family meal together, those families, the kids do better in school, they keep out of social problems in a more significant way. There's no question there's another big difference, which is having a mom and a dad in a home. There are a lot of homes that don't have that option, a single mom, whether it's divorce or whether there's death, or someone who's had kids out of wedlock. But I'll tell you, it's a huge advantage to have a mom and a dad that can share the financial resources to help their kids, that can work in the home to help each child with a little time devoted to each child. We will work very hard for our young people to understand that there's a big advantage to getting married before you have kids, and that bringing them together, having time to join as a family. We in my family had family night once a week. I did my very best to make sure I was there with the family. We had games and snacks and so forth together. Families that are together, I think, have a better prospect of standing up to the challenges of the world.
And how would you do that? I mean, you're obviously a model. You would talk about it. Is there anything else that can be done?
Well, there's only one piece of legislation or policy that might relate to this that comes to mind immediately, and that is that some of our social welfare programs, our safety net programs, discriminate against people who are married. So if you're a single mom and you are low income, if you happen to marry the father of your children, why then you may no longer qualify for Medicaid or for housing vouchers or food stamps. So we've made it a disadvantage to get married in some respects, and that's something I'd like to correct and find a way to do that.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ron. Good to see you.
I'm Ron Kessler for Newsmax TV.